My name is Dan Hay, and I'm the producer on Far Cry 3. I think our focus as we made Far Cry 3 was we took a look not just at Far Cry 2, we took a look at Far Cry 1 as well, and we wanted to make sure that it had a little bit of flavor of both of those for each. And I think Far Cry 2 was a great game. I played it, loved it, but the reality was is that we went online and we looked at some of the stuff that folks said and said, you know, what can we tweak? I think that a couple of things that happened was when we started to develop it, we were sitting in the meetings talking about, you know, what do we want to make sure we tweak? What do we want to make sure that we reward the player with is giving the player the opportunity to turn on the action when they want to turn on the action. Making sure that, you know, the AI isn't always just hammering you with bullets. And so there was a real focus on making sure that, you know, and you can see it in the demo, you're on the edges, you're on the periphery, you can get a pretty good way into their camp and you can see what's going on. And until you make an action, or a misstep perhaps, the game is a little bit, it's waiting for you to do something, so you turn on that action. I think the second thing that we really went to school on as we looked at some of the previous versions was we obviously wanted the graphics to be fantastic. We wanted to get that same feeling the first time that you played Far Cry 2, or excuse me, Far Cry 1, and you jumped into the water and you had that, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe how good it looks. We wanted to take that and put it in the game and make sure that when you stepped into our jungle, that you saw this world, it was alive, everything was lush, it was sort of moving around and the audio was fantastic. And then we wanted to make sure that the act of going through the jungle wasn't arduous, that it didn't take a long time. So we focused on a couple of things. We wanted to make sure that there was something around every corner. So you're walking along and you're on a mission, maybe you're in a truck, maybe you're bombing around pretty quick. But the reality is that there's always something just off the map and you're kind of like, what is that? You stop and you get out and you go and you explore, because discovery and exploration are key for us. And the second thing is, and I'm not supposed to talk about features, but I'm going to anyway, we have fast travel. Everybody asked for it, so we're going to put it in, because it's just the right thing to do. When we started thinking about Voss and the type of character it is, I think for us, you definitely look at the technology and you say, okay, I want to capture a scene and this is my intention, this is what I want to get. And then you find a little kernel of something dark inside everybody and you capture it. With Voss and the character that the actor who actually plays Voss and the character himself, we really focused on the performance of showing somebody who's a little bit crazy. And it's, yes, a great performance capture. Yes, making sure that the eyes are there and that the intonation is there and that when he talks and he says, you know, did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Did I? And you're like, this guy's nuts. Voss is just one card in this deck. And I cannot wait for people to see some of the other cards. So we focused on the performance, making sure that the character was great, making sure that the animation and all the little things that he does and the subtlety and his moves are great. The lip sync is tight. But really, it's just, we want to hit the player here. We want them to feel like, I got to get the hell out of here. This is crazy. But the jungle is very much alive, and we wanted to make sure that we had a varied gameplay experience from the standpoint of, I'm in a jungle, what's in a jungle? And you imagine you come across a cenote and you dive down into it and you start to go down to the bottom, and then you saw that there are cave ways that you can go underneath and find things. For us, that's really key. You're driving along in your truck and you see a cave or a cavern, or you see a mountain, some of the mountains off in the distance that you actually saw in the demo. If you see it, you can get to it. The question is what's up there, or who's up there, why are they up there, and do they like you? On the suite of things that I'm not supposed to talk about, I'm sure you can imagine the full economy and XP and all that stuff, but the reality is that we put it in there to tantalize, we put it in there to showcase that if you saw, and he went over the body, he picked up an ivory statue, he got XP, there's things that you're going to be able to use. And so if they have a currency attached to them, I'm sure I'll let your imaginations run wild, and I can tell you this, you're going to be about 99% accurate. It was a conscious effort to look at what Far Cry 1 did, to look at what Far Cry 2 did, and see other games and say, we're open world, of course we're open world, we're Far Cry, we want to be a great shooter experience, and the world has to be alive. We want this to be able to be put on the floor and people to go, holy crap, this is open world, look at how alive everything is, look at how it sounds. Honestly, Far Cry 2, from the shooter standpoint, that was a great thing for us to start with, and even like all parts of that really worked well for us. So you think about how the enemies react, and if you take a look at how reactive they were, when you're in the demo and you come around the corner and you've fallen into the water and they don't know you're there, they're stumbling around. A guy comes around the corner, he's like, holy crap, and then you just unload on him. That feeling of the satisfaction of the kill And the feeling of making them look like they were unaware that you were there, that's the secret sauce for us. Your weapon will respond to its environment. We spent a ton of time on that in design, talking about that. And the reality is that, you know, Far Cry, you're in salt water, you're doing all this stuff. The sound is going to degrade and whatnot. The other thing too you don't want to do is you don't want to punish the player, right? You don't want to punish the player. So the reality is you pick up the weapon and you shoot it and you're going to be successful. We focused a ton of time on making sure that the environment allowed you to almost, in some cases, use it as a weapon. So whether or not you're jumping into water or you're being thrown over a waterfall or you're using the waterfall as cover, you're diving into water to get around somebody, that's the stuff that took up an incredible amount of time for us in terms of design. It's funny to talk about the animals because there's a few things I'm not allowed to talk about, but I'm going to anyway. The jungle, I mean, the jungle's not alive unless you've got animals that you can deal with, that you got, you know, you saw birds and whatnot. For us, it's going to be important that those animals are in the space. It's going to be important that in some cases you're going to have to deal with them a little bit. It's part of what makes it an experience that's full of life. It's part of what makes it real. And so we really want that feeling of you get off the plane or you get off the boat and you're in a beautiful island, but it's savage and it's the people and it's the general space that makes you feel that little bit of unease. Our health system's pretty straightforward and pretty honest, and we didn't focus so much on being sick or whatnot. We borrowed from the best parts of Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 1. I think that we specifically wanted to make sure that we build a game that if you're a shooter player and you play other games, you can come in and be accessible. But if you play other types of games, RPG or whatever, you can come in, you can pick up the controller, and there's going to be little hints and tricks in there that you're going to enjoy. The reality is that we're not, you know, we want to be in our own spot. Far Cry is off the map. Jason is a character who's just like you, and this is your vacation. You get on the plane, you land, and you think that you got it all covered. And it's a very different and unique experience. We focused on, there were a number of different ways to go. You know, military or even a little bit almost sci-fi, and I've been asked that question. The reality is we sat down and we said, what scares us? What intrigues us? We're not afraid of what's under the bed. We're not afraid of what's in the closet. We're afraid of the guy who comes through the window at 3 o'clock in the morning with a knife. And that's this game.